Okay, here we are in the fundamentals of algebra in chapter 3. So this is section 3.6 applications. So we're still going to use the 5 steps we've been using before on the word problems or application problems. Basically, one, familiarize yourself with the situation. So you have to carefully read and reread the problem until you understand what you're being asked to do. Draw a diagram or see if there's a formula that applies to this situation. You need to assign a variable to the unknown. Then we're going to translate the problem to an equation using the variable. We're going to solve the equation. Then we're going to check our answer in the original wording of a problem to make sure it's correct. And then we're going to state the answer to the problem clearly with the appropriate units. So with this section, we're coming with some new ideas. We're talking about consecutive integers, consecutive odd integers, and consecutive even integers, okay? So these are the key things we need to really pay attention to. So with consecutive integers, if k is an integer, the next consecutive integer is k plus 1. And then the one following that would be k plus 2, and so on. And so we basically are adding 1 to each integer to get the next consecutive integer. So think if you have the first integer is 4, then the next one's going to be 5, and then 6, then 7. And so if you think about that, that was going to be 4, and then 4 plus 1 is 5, and then 5 plus 1 is 6, or we could say 4 plus 2 is 6, and then 6 plus 1 is 7, or 4 plus 3 is 7. And so you have to kind of think about that as what it is. So this is really going to be 4 plus 2 equals 6. This is going to be 4 plus 3 equals 7. So that initial integer 4 is the common thing. Then we added 1, then 2, then 3 to it, okay? Now, consecutive odd integers. So this is basically your counting numbers, consecutive integers, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Now, consecutive odd integers. So this one, we have to think about it. What is that going to be? So if we have odd integers, let's go ahead and write this out first. So say we start with 5. That's an odd. What's the next odd after that? Well, 6 is not, but 7 is. 8's not, but 9 is. 10's not, but 11 is, and so on. So it's kind of every other number is going to be an odd. So if k is an odd integer, the next odd integer is going to be k plus 2. Well, think about that. 5 plus 2 is 7. That works. Now the one after that would be k plus 4. So 5 plus 4 is 9. That gives the next one. And then the next one would be 5 plus 6. And that would be as we keep going down and down and down, starting in keeping with that initial k. Otherwise, we could say k and then k plus 2 and k plus 4 and k plus, and so on. And so we always want to have to add 2 to the odd integer to get the next odd. So again, here I said 3, 5, 7, 9, where 3 is the first, then we add 2 to get 5, and then we add 2 more to get 7, and add 2 more to get 9. And so that kind of gives us the odds. Now what about evens? Well, they're pretty similar to the odds, except we're saying instead of starting with a 5, say we start with a 6. Well, how do we get to the next one? Well, 7's not even, but 8 is. 9's not, but 10 is. 11's not, but 12 is. And so again, we have to add 2 to get to the next one. So if k is an even integer, the next even is going to be k plus 2. And then the one after that would be k plus 4, and so on until you have all the integers you're covering. And so basically, we always have to add 2 to an even integer to get the next even. And so again, 4, 6, 8, 10, where 4 is the first, then we add 2 to get 6, add 4 to get 8, add 6 to get 10, and that's how we keep doing that. You just keep adding 2 more. So that's how we're going to solve these problems here, because the problems will ask, in this case, 3 sides of a triangle are consecutive odd integers. And so what does that mean? Well, let's draw our triangle. Before we even read the rest of the problem, let's draw the triangle and see what it tells us. So what do we know about the sides? They're consecutive odds. So if we do it the same convention and say it's k, if they're consecutive odd, what's the next odd after that? Well, it has to be 2 larger, so it's going to be k plus 2. And then 2 larger than that, well, that's going to be k plus 4. So we've got, like, say that's 3, 5, 7. That would be 3 consecutive odd integers. Now the key here is, it says if the perimeter of the triangle is 51 meters, find the length of the sides of the triangle. Well, how do we know what the perimeter is? Well, we just have to add all those together, and then set it equal to 51. So we're going to say 51 equals k plus 2 plus k plus 4, okay? So we've just added those together. So we first set this down, and so we can say k is equal to the first odd, k plus 2 equals second odd, and k plus 4 equals third odd. And that's how we're doing it, 2, 4 after that first odd. Okay, so we have to have k be in the odd, and then every time we add 2 more, it's still odd. Now we have to add like terms. So we have k, 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 and 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3k, so we have 51 equals 3k plus 2 plus 4 is 6. So now we need to subtract 6 because we want it on the other side over here. And so that's gone. And so now we have to borrow. Well, 11 minus 6 is 5. 4 minus nothing is 4. That's equal to 3k. Well, 3 times k is that, so we have to divide by 3 to get rid of it. So we divide that by 3. So k is equal to, well, 45 divided by 3, that's 1. 3, subtract, that's 1. Bring down our 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract, and so we get k is 15. Now this is our first odd, and we have to have in units of m, so m is going to be k equals 15m. Well, what's k plus 2 then? Well, k plus 2 is going to be 17m. And then k plus 4, well, that's going to be 19 meters. Okay, so those are our sides, starting at 15, then 17, and 19. Are those consecutive odds? 15, then 16 is not, but 17 is. 18 is not, but 19 is. So yes, those are consecutive odd integers. And so those are the sides of our triangle. Now, what's one last thing we need to do? We need to check. So let's see if we take 15 plus 17 plus 19, does that add up? Well, here we have 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Carry 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. That equals 51. So yeah, that checks. Okay, so the sides are 15 meters, 17 meters, and 19 meters. All right, what about this one? Here we have the width and the length of a rectangle are consecutive integers. So again, key thing is, what does it say? Consecutive integers. This one says consecutive odd integers. That's the difference. Okay, so consecutive integers, length and width. All right, so width is usually smaller, length is usually larger. So if this is k, what is a consecutive integer? Well, you add 1. So this would be k plus 1. And because the way a rectangle works, that's how it's going to be. K plus 1 for the long sides, k for the short sides. Now it says the perimeter of the rectangle is 166. So we're just going to add up all the sides, and it has to be 166 inches. So let's start here. K plus 1 plus k plus k plus 1 plus k. And now we're back to here. And so now we look and see if there are any like terms. Well, on the right side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4k plus 1, 2. Okay. Now we want to solve for k, so we subtract 2 from both sides. So those are gone. We have 4k here. Now 6 minus 2 is 4. We have a 6, and we have a 1. Now we divide by 4 because it initially was 4 times k, so divide by 4 to get rid of it. And guess what? We get to do another division. 4 goes into 16 4 times, that's 16. Subtract, that's 0. Bring down our 4. 4 goes into here once, that's 4. Subtract, that's 0. And so k is equal to 41. Well, that's going to be inches. And so our next one is k plus 1. So what's 41 plus 1? Well, that's 42 inches. So this is the width, and this is the length. So that is what we have. And so this is k plus 1. We could say k equals the width. So we didn't write that down specifically before, so we should probably do that. And that's the length. Okay. And that's how we're defining it. And they're consecutive integers. So consecutive means one more than that. Okay. Now does it check? Well, we have 41 plus 42 plus 41 plus 42. So we have 41 plus 41 plus 42 plus 42. So we're adding all those together. 2, 4, 6. 4 times 4 is 16. 166. That looks good. And so that does check out. All right, let's pause here and we'll come back in a little bit.